Do you know what is the world's most educated country? We often have the dream of going to that country for our higher education purpose. Yes, we can assume that the country is Canada. Based on OECD data, 56.71% of the adults in Canada meet the OECD criteria. And the OECD actually stands for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So this data actually makes Canada the world's most educated country. So hello everyone, this is Akshat Faisano from Team 3, and now we are going to record our presentation 1 for International Marketing course. And as you already know that we have chosen the country Canada to market our product for this presentation project. So now before we move on, let me give you an overview of today's presentation. It actually covers the brief introduction and history of Canada, its geography, demographic data, Canada's economy, and their standard of living. So now let's move on. Firstly, a brief introduction of Canada. Canada actually faces the Atlantic Ocean to the east and the Pacific Ocean to the west. The land area is 9.98 million square kilometer, and it is the world's second longest land after Russia. But the population is just about 38 million people approximately. And then Canada's capital is Ottawa, not Toronto. We often mistaken Toronto as Canada's capital, but it is not. Canada's capital is Ottawa. And Canada is a highly developed capitalist country with relatively developed manufacturing and high-tech industries. And their main religion are the Catholicism and Protestantism. This is actually referring to the Christianity. So now let me give you one interesting fact about the origin of the name Canada. The word Canada comes from the Huron-Iroquois word, that is a Hindi word, Canada, which means community or village. So first, Jacques Cartier, a French explorer, explored the Canada, and there was indigenous people. The boy said to him, "This is a place, Canada." So for the language barrier, he cannot pronounce the word Canada. So when he reported to the King of France, referring to the Quebec where he arrived, he first used the word Canada. So the first use of Canada as an official name came in 1791 when the province of Quebec was divided into two colonies of Upper Canada and Lower Canada. In 1841, the two colonies were united under one name, the province of Canada. Now let's move on to the brief history of Canada. At the very beginning, Canada was originally inhabited by indigenous people, and it is argued that the indigenous people were the Indians and Inuit. So after the 16th century, Canada was under French rule, and it was basically called New France before the colonial era. So during the period 1756 to 1763, Britain and France broke out the 7 Years' War in Canada. Ultimately, France was defeated, and the Treaty of Paris in 1763 officially made Canada a British colony. So there comes British colony. Then there were so many inventions. Inventions were in Canada, but one of the major was the War of 1812. So it was fought between the United States and the Britain, and basically it was fought for the land. But ultimately, the war ended with no boundary changes thanks to the Treaty of Ghent. So after that, in 1927, there was a key event. The United Kingdom recognized Canada's equal status and was granted diplomatic independence, but not the actual independence. Then in 1931, Canada became a member of the British Commonwealth of Nations, gaining legislative power, but still no constitutional amendment power. Then during the period 1967 to 1976, the Party of Quebec raised the issue of independence, and in 1976, the party won the provincial election. Then finally in 1982, the Queen of England signed the Canada Constitution Act, and after he signed the Constitution Act, the Canadian Parliament obtained all the powers to make and amend the Constitution. So there, Canada became an independent country. So that's all from my side. Now moving to the next presenter. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohammad Izay Sarapohan. My matric number is 201548. I will continue the presentation. Now I will explain about the geography of Canada. Canada has a vast geography that occupies much of the continent of North America. Canada stretches from the Atlantic Ocean in the east to the Pacific Ocean in the west. To the north lies the Arctic Ocean. It is the second largest country in the world, but it has only one half of 1% of the world population. For the geographical characteristics, Canada has over 2 million lakes, 563 greater than 100 kilometers, which is more than any other country. Containing much of the world fresh water, there are also freshwater glaciers in the Canadian Rockies. The coast mountains and the Arctic Cordillera, a recent global remote sensing analysis also suggested that there were 6,477 kilometers of tidal flats in Canada, making it the fifth ranked country in terms of how much tidal flat occurs there. Okay, now Now for the ecology. Canada is divided into 15 terrestrial ecological regions and 5 marine ecological regions, covering more than 80,000 categories of life, and 42% of land in Canada is covered by forests. Approximately 8% of the world's forested land made up mainly of spruce, poplar, and pine. Canada also has 41 national parks and 3 marine conservation areas. For the geology, Canada is geologically active with a rich resource, despite having many earthquakes and potentially active volcanoes. Average winter and summer high temperatures across Canada range from Arctic weather in the north to hot summers in the southern regions, with 4 distinct seasons. Okay, now let's move on to the topography of Canada. First is the Canadian Shield. Canada's topography is dominated by the Canadian Shield, an ice-carved area of Precambrian rock surrounding Hudson Bay and covering half the country. This vast region, with its store of forests, water power, and mineral resources, is being increasingly developed. Second is the Central Canadian Shield area, is joined by the Nelson, Saskatchewan, Churchill, Severn, and Albany rivers flowing into Hudson Bay. Okay, so as you can see, here Canada is a hilly country in the east, and the Great Lakes and South Lawrence region bordering the United States in the south, with flat terrain and many basins. In the west is the Cordillera Mountains, the highest region in Canada, with many peaks above 4,000 meters above sea level. The highest mountain, Mount Logan, is located in the Rocky Mountains in the west, at 5,951 above sea level. North for Arctic Islands, more than the system of low hills. The central part is plain area. The highest mountain, Mount Logan, in the western Rocky Mountains, is 5,951 meters above sea level. Now let's move on to the major cities in Canada. First, we have Toronto in the province of Ontario. It's the most populous city in Canada, a multicultural city with more than 4 million population. It is the country financial and commercial center. Montreal is in the province of Quebec is the second most populous city in Canada, the principal metropolis of the province. The city of Montreal occupies about three-fourths of Montreal Island. And then we have Vancouver in the province of British Columbia. It is the major urban center of Western Canada and the focus of one of the country's most populous metropolitan regions. It is the third most populous city in Canada. And then lastly, we have Ottawa, which is located in the province of Ontario with a population more than a million. It was named the capital of Canada in 1857 and retained that status up until today. Okay, for the main airports, we have the Lester B. Pearson International Airport, also known as Toronto Pearson International Airport, which is the main international airport serving Toronto, Canada's metropolitan area and its surrounding region. This airport serves as a hub for 46 airlines. And then we have the Vancouver International Airport, which is the second busiest airport in Canada by aircraft movements and passengers, behind Toronto Pearson International Airport. It is located 12 kilometers from downtown Vancouver. Okay, for the modes of transport that the Canadian use, they have several railway systems such as Canadian Pacific Airway, Algoma Central, West Coast Express, Go Transit, and Rocky Mountaineer. But they also relies on mass public transport such as airports, bus, and taxi. Okay, now lastly, I will tell you guys about the climate condition and weather patterns of Canada. Canada is a vast country with a continental climate over much of the country, with average winter and summer temperatures varying from place to place. And for the climate characteristics of different regions of Canada, for in the Pacific Coast area, the climate is mild and pleasant, sometimes with an abundant winter precipitation. And then in the mountains area, it's variable, mostly stormy weather, but the temperature fall as the terrain rises. The southeast area, warm winters and cool summers. It is also the most densely populated part of Canada. And in the British area, it's they have cold winters and cool summers, about 5 months in both winter and summer, with most of the precipitation occurring in summer. In the Northern Territory area, with long winters and short summers, this region has 4 distinct seasons and moderate precipitation. The Arctic area is the coldest region in Canada, with winter lasting to 10 months. The summers are very cold and short, with very little precipitation. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammad Mahdi Saifi, and I am going to talk about the key demographic data that we found about Canada that we think are valuable uh, in order to do the best marketing and find the best strategies and find the most profit out of the list we do, like the most possible profit. And that's why we've gone to the gender distribution, the age distribution, the density, and we found some rather interesting data that we will share right now. So let's start. The Canadian median age for female is around 43.5. For male, it's 40.9, and in total, it's 42.5. And the ratio of male and to female is in favor of female. And in the research, they found out that for every 93 to 94 men, there are 100 women. So it's not significant, but the population of women in Canada are more than the male. That's why the markets for women purse and women clothing are more valuable compared to the marketing for male products. Now, if you look at the distribution by age, we can see from age 0 to 14, there are around 16%. For 15 to 24, around 11%, 25 to 54, 39.81, 55 to 64, 14%, and 65 and above, it's around 19%. So this data clearly shows that Canada is an aging country. Uh, the As you can see, the population of the grown men and older people are way more than the younger generation. Millennials and boomers in Canada are way more than Gen Z. That's why in marketing, we need to realize that if you want to sell something, we need to look at the things that are necessary in day-to-day life, and we cannot count and think about things like toys and uh, PlayStations, gaming PCs, because the market is there. It's certainly there, but it's not as valuable as more day-to-day basis products. As we look at the ethnic origins, now bear in mind, everyone who's living at Canada counts themselves as Canadian. It's not like they are somewhere else. They call themselves Canadians themselves. But if you look at their origins and their generations, we can see only 18.9% are originally Canadian, and 10.7% are English, 8.1% are Scottish, 8% are French. Now, French. If you don't know, French is one of the most important languages in Canada beside English. And 30.2% others that we can see are from immigrants like Iranians, Middle Easterns in general, some Africans. Canada has been really kind to immigrants in the past few years, and a lot of people are moving there. And if you look at the distribution by population density, we can see that Canada is a really big country. That's why this stat makes a lot of sense, because for 1 square kilometers, there are only 4 people. And as you can see in this heat map, there are not a lot of places in Canada that are habitable. And that's why the populations are mostly in south and only 4 people per square kilometers. With that said, I'm going to pass the presentation to my next friend to carry.
Hello everyone, my name is Prasad Alexander, metric number 30491, and I would like to explain about key economic data of Canada. First, I would like to start with the GNP of Canada. Now, this GNP data was from December 2020. It shows that Canada GNP was at 1.656 billion US dollar. This record was a decrease from the previous number of 1.749 and 880 billion US dollar from September 2020. Now, this data was also reached an all-time high of 474,914 billion US dollar in September 2013, and a record low of 9,414 billion US dollar in March 1961. Next, I would like to discuss about the GDP of Canada. Now, the GDP was also from the same years, 2020. Now, Canada nominal GDP was reached 442.6 billion US dollar in December 2020. Now, if you compare it with the previous quarter, it's only 418.9 billion US dollar. And nominal GDP in Canada is updated quarterly, and this one's available from March 1957 to December 2020 with an average number of 135.5 billion US dollar. The data reached an all-time high of 465.1 billion US dollar in March 2013 and a record low of 8.8 billion US dollar in March 1958. Now, the latest report of Canada GDP was contracted 3.2% year over year in December 2020. The GDP deflator, or implicit price deflator, was increased 1.7% in December 2020. Canada GDP per capita was also reached 48,029.3 US dollar in June 2021, and gross saving rate was measured at 24.6% in December 2021. Sorry. Now, this is on the GNI of Canada. The PPP data was reported at 1.751 and 691.790 million US dollar in 2020. This record a decrease from the previous number of 1.82989 and 739 million US dollar from 2019. So there's a decrease there. Canada GNI from PPP data is updated yearly and averaging of 1.303, 584 and 936 million US dollar from December 1997 to 2020. With 24 observation, the data reached an all-time high of 1.829 and 899.739 million dollar in 2013 and a record low of 731.1982 and 858 million in 19 million US dollar in 1997. Now, the next discussion is about Canada GNP per capita. Now, Canada GNP from 2018 was 1.66621 billion in US dollar. There's a 6.28% increase from 2017. Also, Canada GNP from 2019 was 1.74 and 45 billion US dollar, an increase also from 2018. And the last one, Canada GNP for 2020 was 1.651.1 billion US dollar, a decline or a decrease from 2019. It's about 5.46%. Now, Canada GDP per capita. In Canada, gross domestic product per capita reached 48.29 for US dollar in June 2021. Compared with 2020, there's only 43.814 and 849 US dollar. Canada per capita data is updated yearly. This one available from June 71 to June 2021 with an average number of 21,510 and 818 US dollar. The data reached an all-time high of 52.538 and 325 US dollar in June 2013, and a record low of 4,312 and 333 in June 1971. This one is Canada GNI per capita. Canada GNI per capita was from 44.950 and a increase from 2017 was around 4.78%. Canada GNI per capita from 2019 was 46.460, a 3.36% increase from 2018. And Canada GNI per capita for 2020 was 43.440, 6.5% decline from 2019. Now, this is Canada individual and household income level and distribution. Income and distribution levels of Canada in 2018 was in Canadian dollar. Now, this data was after tax, so which means that in 2020, an unattached individual was earning about 66.800 Canadian dollar, which represent around 7.1% from the previous year. Now, the increase after tax income was larger for lower level income, and families was mainly driven by income support programs put by Canadian and also the one who impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. Canadian official poverty rate was 6.4%, and this one is down 3.9 percentage point from the previous year when it's around 10.3%. Now, this Canada GNI General Inequality Index. It shows that from 1971, there's a big leap to 1975, and then currently the Canadian GNI General Inequality Index was around 33.3%, and the last data was from 2017. I guess that's all from my part, and I would like to pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
We turning our attention now to the main standard of living and the indicators. This bar graph represents the hospital beds in Canada. You can see here a decrease from 4.55 beds in 2000 to 2.52 beds in 2020. In comparison to Malaysia, they still have 1.88 beds, and in Austria we have 7.27 beds per 1,000 people. Canada is also one of the countries with the lowest numbers of intensive care beds than anyone else in the developed world. I'm now addressing the bar graph that refers to doctors by 1,000 people in Canada. The average value in Canada was 2 doctors per 1,000 people, and the maximum was in 2020 with 2.8 doctors per 1,000 people. There are also some key facts about the Canadian healthcare system. Canada has a publicly funded healthcare system. That means they have a primary healthcare service. There, people get basic healthcare, which includes treatments and basic emergency service. The secondary service is normally a hospital or a specialized care institution. And the last part is additional service. Mostly this part is not covered under the publicly funded healthcare. Next, I would like to bring up on the left slide the residential power consumption level in comparison to our two other countries. The electricity consumption increased by about 1% per year between 2015 and 2019. It dropped by 3% in 2020 to 560 terawatt hours because of the COVID-19 pandemic. In comparison to our other two countries, we can say that Canada consumes 3 times more electricity than Malaysia. And of course, Austria is a very small country with just 9 million inhabitants, so we use less than half of Malaysia. On the right side, in Canada, the industry is the largest electricity consumer with 33%, followed by the residential and the service sector. Let me show you this line graph. It represents the household consumption as percentage of the gross domestic product. We can see here Canada consumes 54.6% of its nominal GDP in 21, and it was the same in the previous quarters. The percentage of the population with access to water is very high, with 99.8% since 1990s till now. In summary, we can say Canada has less land and rich mineral resources, and its economy is doing well, with its gross national product reaching an all-time high in the fourth quarter of 21. Canada is the 9th largest economy in the world, and international trade, which includes import and export, is an important part of the Canadian economy, each accounting for about 1/3 of its GDP. The indicators of living in Canada are also very good, and they came from a very good foundation. According to what we have collected above, Canada is indeed a good choice to invest or to enter the market. So we gave you a short overview about Canada, and I will say thank you for your kind attention.